Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's Vin PF, and on today's episode we're covering another Tomintoul, and this time we're going right to the start of their kind of core range, entry level, whatever you want to call it, and this one's called the Peated. Not to be confused with Peaty Tang, although I think in my research that this one has superseded that, but I don't actually know that for a fact, but it just seems that way to me, because now it's called Peated, whereas previously it was Peaty Tang. Now, if you know Tomintoul in any way, you'll know that they call themselves the gentle Dram. Traditionally, they're releasing low 40%. You know, there are some other ones as well, some age statements that I've got back here, but traditionally kind of 40%. They do have some age statements, very easy-going whiskies, depending on kind of cask finishes and whatnot, but they're not really there to blow your palate, let's say. They're there to give you a subtle experience that anyone can enjoy. Traditionally, to be fair to them, I would have left them alone because I moved on, quote unquote, from 40%ers a long time ago. But I'm actually coming back round to that early 40%ers. I still love my high ABV, of course, but I'm coming back to the nuances of those early 40%ers because there's some really great stuff out there that needs to be paid attention to. This being one of them. Now this one here, obviously 40%. We don't know about colour or whatever. Not too concerned about that. It sells for early 30 quid, so it's about 32, 33 pounds depending on where you look. Often in deals and whatnot, so it's cheap enough to get us by. Best thing to do then really is to get into the actual whiskey and see what we've got. One thing we do know is that it's aged in ex-bourbon barrels. Don't know about refills and whatnot. I should imagine it is, because here, it's, dare I say, it's probably added colour. I don't know for sure, but looking at it, I don't think it's going to be very, very highly aged, but that's a very typical golden colour, but I don't really like to comment on colour when I don't know that it's natural colour, but yeah, let's get onto it. Nose then. Now for me, this has got a nice earthy peat up front. When we talk about smoke, we talk about a lot of different, peat and smoke are very different flavour profiles. Smoke tends to be, it can be acrid or it can be sweet or, whatever, but peat tends to be a bit more earthy, a bit more vegetal, and that's where we're getting off this, in my opinion. But intermingled with that is a bunch of sweet notes. For me, it's honey and ginger. And then on the back end of that, there's almost like a saline, kind of briny seaweed vibe on the back end. All in all, it's a very robust nose, very enjoyable nose, especially for kind of peat heads. It isn't gonna blow your head off. Nor would I say is this really like a kind of a bridging whiskey. If you were looking to break into that kind of peat game, it's definitely down that sort of way, But I wouldn't say this is the one to break you out of peat hatred, because it's definitely peaty. But for the peat enthusiasts out there just like me, this would be a good way to start your evening. Okay, let's try on the palate. Okay, see, this is where it's interesting to me, because sometimes a palate translates directly from the nose. Sometimes it's wildly different. In this situation, it does translate directly from the nose, but in a completely different order. On the nose, it was peat up front, then the sweet, and then the brine. For me, on my palate, it's almost the reverse. The sea salt, the brininess is up front. Then the sweetness comes through, more of those honey and gingers for sure, and then it finishes on the earthy peat, which I quite like. That's I like all sorts of whiskey. I like to not be surprised. I like to be surprised. Whatever's going on, I'm pretty cool with. In terms of a finish, I would say it's medium, no more than that. It's got a nice smokiness to it on the back end, so the peat has kind of disappeared for me on the finish and left smokiness in its place, which again, no big problem with that at all. Now for me, the real winner of this is the price. Being it's so cheap, it's like 32 quid. This is absolute guard whiskey territory for me. One of my favourite things to do. I don't really talk about guard whiskey enough. If you've watched the channel for a while, you'll know what I'm talking about. T-shirts are coming soon. I'll be revealing them pretty soon. But guard whiskey is a kind of a term that I've coined, where you get your relatively inexpensive, and I use that term quite keenly because obviously we're all on different paths with our affordability. So you have to choose where you are in that, but relatively inexpensive. You put that in front of, in your kind of cubes like I've got, you put it in front of your relatively expensive whiskey, so that when you come for a rummage, if anything like me, I've got no kind of order to this, so I tend to have a little rummage, but I tend to get bored and I just grab whatever's nearest. This is perfect for that, because not only will I enjoy drinking it, I'll happily reach for it. There's a few on here that I wouldn't happily reach for regularly, so I'd happily reach for it, and it would be very easily replaceable at the end of it. Because some of these whiskies, you know, getting up to 100 odd quid, they're not so easily replaceable, and they need something in front of it. So the guard whiskey was born, and this is absolutely quintessential guard whiskey. Perfect drinking, start of your evening. I don't think, if you were drinking peat all night and you would get hitting your cask strengths, I don't think this would stand up against that, but that's not what it's for. Don't do that with it. Start your evening with it, wake your palate up with it, use it as a guard whiskey, enjoy it readily. You know, this isn't a bottle to be, you know, hidden away and saved. This is a bottle to enjoy. Get the whiskey out all the time when your friends come around, wake everyone's palates up, put it back in the cupboard again, do that again the next time, replace it when it's done. I think that's fair enough. But I've really enjoyed this. This is going to be one that I think is probably going to die really quickly when I'm doing my normal drinking, but we'll see. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you tried this? Are you going to try this? Obviously, all the links in the description and stuff like that. But I'll see you again on more videos coming soon. Cheers.